This is Mr. Knox. Now, over the weekend, I managed to get Mr. Knox into a call where we discussed a lot of things about trading. So we have started off with an introduction to Mr. Knox and his trading, and then we delve a bit more deeper into some insight about what it's like, as Chris is a profitable trader. And he's a trader who's not chasing that Lambo lifestyle. He's a very realistic trader, as I would put it. And then we'll go over what prop firms he trades and why, as well as some lessons that he's learned in his 3 years of ICT trading. And the second half of this kind of almost what is essentially a Sean podcast, we'll go over how Chris would recommend someone who's new to trading or like his younger self, how to find your model and what it actually feels like to make money from trading, as that's what we're all kind of here to do. So yeah, I would recommend you don't just whack this on if you're bored. This is something that's going to have a lot of value in it, and it's going to be something you want to listen to. So put this on when you're going to go take your dog for a walk or something and just listen to it, because it is honestly a really good conversation, and I was very happy with how this went. So let's stop teasing it and actually get into it. To give an introduction of you, like how long you've been trading, what prop firms you've used, what prop firms you've made money with, what prop firms you haven't made money with, if any, and like your basic kind of overview of the market, like how you view it, how you enter a trade, and stuff, all stuff like
hmm
that.
So I guess we'll just start with how long I've been trading. It's so funny. I actually got into trading first with something called binary options. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. This was you know, like a decade ago type of thing that was super scammy. Offshore European brokers, where basically you could, at whatever current forex price, you could say if the next 5 minutes is going to be higher or lower, and that would be, but it was, strictly gambling. The house always wins in that case. Uh, but that was like my introduction. It's like, holy shit, I could make money online by clicking buttons. And I kind of ditched that for a bit. And it wasn't until really um, the pandemic that, we were all kind of stuck at home trying to figure out what we were doing. And that, I uploaded Robinhood with, I'm sure everyone else and their mother looking to see, well, what can I do with my money? Can I make more money than my job that's going to, be that I'm going to be unable to attend for the foreseeable future. So really, my market knowledge and everything back then was very basic. It was how can I get into the S&P 500? Then it was options here or there, but it was all like covered calls, cash secured puts, very basic, safe investing stuff. Then it was like, okay, well, you can do these cool little trendy little strategies like credit spreads and strangles and iron condors and all that stuff. And so I kind of got into that. And then there were some really obscure, spreads that you can do. That was again, it was all gambling kind of stuff. Um, and I don't even know what kind of pushed me into futures. I mean, I was trading options on futures for a couple years. Again, doing more basic selling options rather than buying, especially zero DTE stuff. I wasn't doing anything around that. Um, but I, I really, I honestly cannot tell you, whether it was the YouTube algorithm that kind of pushed it to me. Some video popped up on my feed of someone day trading futures, um, and eventually ended up watching Patrick Wheeland, and somehow ICT made it into a chat on a Patrick Wheeland video. This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think this was like really taken seriously. Well, I should probably just stick to one system, and the 2020 the 22 mentorship was the one that really kind of put everything together for me and made the most sense for me. Um, and so from there, it was okay. So where am I going to be trading? Is it going to be in the personal account? I had a personal account with Tasty Trade when I was doing my option stuff. That was when I found out about prop firms. I think Top Step was the first. No, actually, that's incorrect. There was another prop firm, Elite Trader Funding, that I first hopped on with. Didn't get anywhere with that. Blew a couple evals before I think I started trading with Top Step. And it was right when they were like really kind of modernizing, because they were still, I think, a little behind the game as these new kind of prop firms, as Apex was starting to get big. Um, and so at this point, like, I'm still just trying to figure out, you know, what's my time frame, what's my strategy, you know, what's my risk appetite. And so I'm kind of just flinging everything at the books. Um, I'm a bit older than most of the day trading population. I got a family. I'm pretty, secure in my, career. So there's not that at, on one end of the spectrum, like, there's not this, incessant need to like make money right now, but also that I'm very comfortable with spending a little bit more, taking a little bit more risk to kind of figure this out. So I'm a bit more aggressive than most of the younger population when it comes to prop firms and things like that. So I was, I really kind of took to heart that, this first couple years is all education for me. Like, I'm willing to spend however much money to figure out exactly who I am as a trader, to then make, a virtually infinite amount of money on the back end. However long that takes. If that takes 20 years, that's fine. If I'm making however much money I want to make. So that kind of having that framework in mind allowed me to be very comfortable in this stage of just I'm gonna make all the mistakes, and that's okay. I need to figure out where the boundaries are for me personally as a trader before I can really make any headway. So that's kind of been my introduction. That pretty much brings us right up to where we're at now.
Yeah, so I think there's a few main takeaways there. Obviously, you being open to making those mistakes is definitely something that a lot of traders will struggle with. They won't want to make the
Mhm.
mistakes, which will then actually end up just shooting them in the foot in the long run. So, being open to making those mistakes early on, especially early on, is definitely really helpful for your overall progression in your trading journey. So bringing it up to like the present, what's your day-to-day trading routine at the moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we can kind of touch on like what prop firms, or at least what account types that I'm currently trading,
Yeah.
and why. Um, so I I I really was attracted to the kind of direct funding or straight to funded approach,
Mm.
depending on which firm you're with. Because I found, as I was getting better at trading, that, like, I had a model, I had a pretty good idea, what you know, my win rate, win percentage, profitability factor is, and all of that. No, roughly speaking, that, like, I know I can get into evaluation and pass. And that, again, because I'm a little bit more um, able to take risks, that, I will kind of go really aggressive on the eval stage. And then I realized that I was now starting to overcorrect, um, and trade in ways that were not conducive to, good habits, right? Because I know that I can get through an eval stage real fast, that I would just kind of take anything. I just put anything on and just manage it
Yeah.
instead of actually trade my model, and, and base it on, my back test, right? So there's a psychological component of, you know the premium of, what you would have to pay to get into a, direct funded account, with the trade-off being that, I'm now playing with my money directly.
Mm.
And so I don't need to have this stage where I'm, aggressively trading outside of my model. I'm locked in and focused to what I'm trading right now. Yeah, trading with Tradeify, and most recently with Perdea. is been the accounts that I've been using, and kind of just flipping around again, still testing things out. I've had a really good experience with Tradeify, and still learning and kind of testing the waters with Perdia.
Mm. So what accounts with Tradeify, let's walk through first. What accounts have you used with them, and what are some pros and what are some negatives? Some things like, well, recommendations for any new person that was be interested in using Tradeify.
Yeah, so I've with the straight to funded accounts. I think I started with the 150Ks and had a couple that I was trading, and at the end of last year, I had a really good run before I took a payout. Um, I built that account really high, and then once I got that one to a payout, quickly lost that account. It just went on tilt. Um, and so from there, I went back to a 50K because there was something about, you know, this is where you kind of have to feel, depending on how you trade and how you like to take your risk. With a 150K account, you have a much larger drawdown, but obviously a much larger profit target before you can start taking profits. Um, and and then also access to 50 contracts. So like if if discipline isn't your thing, and revenge trading and button smashing
Mm,
is something you're prone to, that is something that you're going to have to, that you'll run into with those larger accounts. So I tend to like to stay on the smaller accounts where, because even with 5 contracts, you'll blow up your account in a
yeah,
second. So so it's definitely more than enough. It's even something that like I'm looking forward to, um, with because I'll be moved into a live account with Perdia soon. And being able to work. I don't know what it looks like, in an actual sense, but with a risk manager or someone where you can control, your daily risk management versus even your contract sizing. Like I would even tell them like, hey, give me 2.
yeah,
Uh, like that's literally all I need right now, and we can go from there. But that's something that like I like about the smaller accounts is, you can get to your profit target faster.
mm,
You're less prone to jump on 15 contracts because you literally can't. Um, and so yes, that's what I've been trading recently is 50K accounts.
yeah. It's probably also helpful, obviously, not having to pay so much to get, like, obviously for a 150K account, you're talking $700 to $1,000 for an instant funding account. For a 50K account, you're probably talking somewhere in the range of 300 to $400 dollars
Right.
instead. So that's obviously going to be like a bit of a weight. Well, it's still $300 or $400, but I mean it's a weight off your chest compared to $700 to $1,000.
Yep.
Um, so what has your kind of main takeaways, or what get into like more of lessons you've learned probably for someone who's, let's say, maybe 6 to 12 months into trading, they've discovered ICT, so obviously to relate it to you. But feel free to throw any psychological lessons that could apply to anyone in
Mhm.
there. But some main kind of takeaways. You've been trading for how long?
Uh, Day trading futures, we'll say since the end of 22.
Okay, so about almost like 2, 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone who's maybe like what, 1/6 of the amount of experience that you have,
Mm.
and you are obviously, well, in my opinion, I've obviously hung around with you a bit. I'm aware that you're a pretty well developed psychological trader. Um, so yeah, any sort of tips, experiences, lessons, light bulb moments that you've had in your trading journey?
Yeah, I think kind of touch on what I said earlier, like having, gosh, there was a really good quote I heard from someone, but essentially the concept is, having a long term like horizon in terms of, probably in the middle of the 22 mentorship, because I started watching ICT at the end of the 2022 mentorship. So that was really my like formal introduction into day trading, and that why I've kind of stuck with ICT since then. That I, after kind of sitting through all of that, just figuring out where to press the button, how to lose as much money as I possibly could, uh, then I starts is, kind of immediate urgency to like lock in, understand your model, understand your risk, understand your psychology, right? So like those are things that obviously you want to take care of immediately, but like letting however long it's going to take just happen, right? That um, you're just going to be smashing against a brick wall if you're trying to step on the gas all the time, blowing up account after account after account. And I've done that. I've traded and blown up a lot of accounts. Um, so for someone that's kind of, let's say, following in my footsteps, and if I were to go back and
Mm.
to kind of direct me in a better way, um, I think I would. I mean, as cliche as it is, find find your model as soon as possible, right? Whatever that means, whatever that is, like getting to one and just staying there
Mm.
and not moving and just trading it, observing it, tape reading it, back testing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over so that you know exactly what you're looking for every time. Get off YouTube, stop following people, you know, find a group of guys like we have
Yep.
that, are in a similar mind, like like those are the only people now that you share and glean information from, and not from, flashy flashy YouTube syndrome. Um, which is a counter to what this video is all about. But you know, like be very intentional. Like that was the thing, is I was very intentional with what I was now absorbing from YouTube. Right, I was finding the people that would speak into my current predicament in trading, um, so that I'm not taking in anything new. I'm not trying to adjust anything. I'm just trying to trade myself and um my model better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one thing I wanted to touch on there that I noticed. So you said like it's probably very important for you to find your model as fast as possible. So
Mm,
if you could go back and tell yourself like the kind of step-by-step things of how to find your model. So,
mhm.
how would you do that? How would you explain to someone how to find their model?
Well, so if like you're coming from scratch, I mean, I that is what YouTube's going to be good for, or
Yeah.
TikTok, or whatever you're on. You're going to get introduced to everything, right? And so I think what made it click for me, and especially with like ICT, is it just made sense to me.
Yeah.
It might not make sense to you, and that's fine. That's where you go, okay, next.
Mm.
But you want to find the thing that like clicks with you, right? That your personality, the way your mind sees and reads the chart, that whatever that guy is saying, and when you're looking at the chart, you can see it. That's where you dig deeper that way. And so like that was for me, was once something started making sense, that like, I see what's happening here. When I come to the chart, that I can see um, exactly what I'm looking for. I know how to read it. I have a general sense of what I should be expecting. Um, you want to dig deeper in that direction, um, because it's all about how your eyes perceive the market. And so if something doesn't resonate with you, if something doesn't help you see the market better, then it's not going to help you ever. And so I just not to waste your time on something that's not clicking with you.
Yeah. Okay. I really like that. Um, I definitely agree. It's like that. You can't explain the feeling until you feel it almost. It's like
Mhm.
you'll say to someone, oh, it'll just click one day, and they'll be like, what do you mean it just clicks? And then they'll find their model, and they'll be like, oh my God, it just clicked. And then,
Yep.
so it's kind of, yeah, I like that. The process of just try that, give it, how long would you say someone should give, like, a model before they like how long would you say they should expect like the clicking thing? Because I think for me it was almost instant when I found the 2022 model specifically.
Mhm.
It was almost within one or two videos I was like, this makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's I mean, that was the same thing, like, because like, I'm trying to remember how I felt at that time, because I was watching, Patrick Whelan videos and the way he was trading, and he was trading in a very particular way that I think he still even does now, where basically he waits for an impulse, and then there's, like, a couple candle pullback, and then once it crosses, his little trend line that he would
Mm.
draw, then it would go. And I was like, "Oh, it's a very simple model, right? Anyone could trade that." And I remember when I started watching the 2022 mentorship and was introduced to the fair value gap for the first time, I was like, "Oh my gosh, there it is. There's that pattern."
The secret that I've been missing out on.
Right. And so it was cool seeing kind of, you know, two different approaches, have a, you know, of the same foundation. But then the context that ICT puts everything around, right? Uh, and being introduced to the narrative of the market and when and why you should trust, when that pattern should form and what's happening and where it should go or should not go. Um, that was when it clicked, right?
Mm.
So it'll just be something like I said, like from that point on, it's like I can't not see the fair value gap anywhere, everywhere, right? Like I it's very easy to see. It's very easy to put in context. You know, whatever your points of interest are, or your liquidity targets. Like those are things that just like I can see all of this now. And it's really easy for me to see, and
Mm.
like that should be the key to whatever approach you're taking. Is this easy for me to see? Is it natural for my eyes to be drawn to that when I look at the chart?
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's your context, that's your lens, that's your model.
Mm. I'm not sure if I have any other questions that have sprung to mind, unless you have anything more that you would like to kind of maybe talk about or touch on. But I think we
Enjoy the
have covered a lot
process.
of
It's
yeah.
a very cliche thing, but just enjoy it. Like I see a lot of the younger guys, really um, pressed for, wanting to get out of whatever their situation is. I totally am sympathetic to that. Like I've been there, and I'm where I'm at now because I've done something about that, right? What's gonna make the difference is you being able to stay in for as long as possible,
Mm.
because it's no one's gonna get there overnight. No one's gonna get there at the same speed as everyone. So if you're watching your mate, do it and be consistently profitable within a year, and you guys start at the same time and you're not getting it, like the only thing that's gonna allow you to get there is if you keep going on. And um whatever it takes for you to you know to take the pressure off yourself, that's going to be, unfortunately, getting a job outside of trading,
Mm.
something that supports your basic necessities, so that you can just focus on being a better trader and not trying to force money out of a market that doesn't want to give you any. um and so doing those things, which, again, just allows you to stay in long enough for it to finally turn over. Like that's the key, because at some point it does, and then it's over. Like
Yeah.
that's it doesn't mean that you don't stop growing. It doesn't mean that you don't stop getting better. It doesn't mean that you're not going to run into cold streaks,
Mm.
and um, you'll always be refining that. But at some point, like I know for me that was last year, and that was, it was, oh my gosh, like I can do this. I can take money out of the market, um, and I can if I lock in, if I you know am disciplined with myself and with my community, like I can make this work.
Mm,
Um, and then it only gets more exciting from there. Um, I know some people like to take emotions out of it. I mean, you're human, be human, whatever it takes for you to do what you need to do. Um, but that would be my suggestion.
mm. And one thing you did just prompt me with there in that little um, bit of that conversation was that the feeling of, oh my God, I can do this. So, as someone who has taken payouts, you've taken real money that is in your bank account from a thin air, essentially, from your computer. What does that feel like? That moment where you took that first payout?
Um, a lot of it was um, initially just a sense of not necessarily relief, maybe vindication. Where you've kind of had you kind of have to lie to yourself at the beginning that you're going to figure this out because you haven't yet, right? Um, and you have to convince anyone who's around you that knows that you're doing this that you're going to figure it out. Especially if you're like me and you got wife and kids, um, that what you're doing is going to be beneficial for them and not a drag on our relationship and our finances, whatever that is. Um, but so to finally hit that point where it's like I did it, right? I told myself I would do it. I told everyone who's been with me that I was going to make this work, and it's finally working. That's a very very serious case of vindication. To some extent, it doesn't really take the leap off your shoulders because you got to repeat the process. You got to do it again. You got to get back in the market. And that was even that first after that first payout. That was a big struggle for me because it was like, okay, this is a big payout. Finally did what I said I was going to do. It's like, well, now what? How do I go from here? Like, and you get really kind of jittery and anxious and so like that's totally I would say natural to be expected. It's gonna take some time for that consistent part of profitability to really kind of settle in because you're going to be in a totally different arena than you were before, right? Where it's possible. It's okay. So how do I do this in a manner that is uh, sustainable, right? So yeah, it's definitely yeah. I'd say vindication is probably
Mm.
probably
Yeah,
the
no, it's
biggest word
fine.
there.
Yeah, I love that. Um,
Mhm.
okay, I think we will leave that there. I think there's been way more value than probably anyone who clicked on this video ever expected to see. I mean, that was a real like masterclass almost in trading. That was really good. Um, so yeah, I'll leave that there. I'll end the recording there. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you to Mr. Knox. I'll actually link your YouTube channel in the description of the video just in case people want to see more of you. I know you're not been posting
That's great. I
recently,
won't
but
post
yeah,
anymore.
but there is some good value on there anyway. So if anyone wanted to check that out, then who knows, Mr. Knox could blow up, and then he might start posting again because
I have to come out of my YouTube
yeah.
retirement for my one subscriber.
Yeah.